Hello and welcome to the Suffolk Seaboard Station Railroad Museum. The museum is located at 326 North Main Street in downtown historic Suffolk, Virginia. And today I will be taking you inside to look at some of the exhibits we have on display here. Welcome inside the museum. This building was constructed in 1885 by the Seaboard Railroad, and it was used as a passenger station through the 1960s and then as a freight station through the 1980s. Sometime in the 1990s, there was a fire that occurred inside the building, and instead of tearing the building down, the local Suffolk Nansemond Historical Society became involved and restored the building into the museum it is today. Today, the museum houses many artifacts from the different railroads that used to pass through Suffolk's borders. The highlight of the museum is a two-room HO scale model depicting Suffolk back in 1907. And the model was constructed by the Tidewater Division of the National Model Railroad Association, and they used this map here that was drawn of Suffolk in 1907. It's an insurance map drawn that year. So let's take a closer look at the model. Here along the Nansemond River in 1907, there were wharfs, but of course today this is now Constance Wharf Park and where the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel now stands. A little bit further up the hill across what is now Constance Road, we have the old Nansemond County Courthouse as well as Riddick's Folly. The old courthouse, of course, is now the Suffolk Visitor Center, and Riddick's Folly is now an historic house museum. These two models were scratch built, and they are national award-winning models, very detailed all the way down to the correct number of bricks. A little bit further down, we'll cross over to Cedar Hill Cemetery, which is the historic cemetery here in the downtown area. Dates to 1802. And if you look closely, you can see a little funeral mishap going on. And adjacent to Cedar Hill Cemetery, we're back here at the train station where we're at now. And you'll notice there's two tracks on each side of the building. The tracks here were for the Seaboard Railroad, and the tracks here were for the Virginian Railroad. The tracks for the Virginian Railroad are now part of Prentice Street. Now, another display that we have here at the museum that gets a lot of attention is this outfit worn by a conductor from the Seaboard Railroad. So even though there was a disastrous fire that occurred inside the building still retains many original features, such as this spiral walnut staircase. And from the tower, you get a wonderful view of historic Main Street and the railroad tracks. So in addition to all of the railroad artifacts that we have displayed here inside the museum, we also have a room showcasing the history of the peanut industry here at Suffolk. Right behind me, we have two display cases showcasing memorabilia from the Planters factory as well as Mr. Peanut memorabilia. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Peanut was born right here in downtown Suffolk in 1916. Mr. Ovici, the founder of Planters Peanuts, wanted a mascot or a trademark for his business, and so Antonio Gentile, 14-year-old that lived here in Suffolk, drew a rough version of a Peanut Man, which eventually became known as Mr. Peanut. And here we have items such as coloring books, whistles, drinking cups, dishes, banks, various Mr. Peanut memorabilia on display here. And to my right, we have an antique peanut cart. You would have seen peanut carts such as these up and down the streets of towns and cities and festivals and fairs. Speaking of festivals, over here we have a display case showcasing the history of the Suffolk Peanut Festival, which is held every October here in Suffolk. And the first Peanut Festival was actually held in 1941. We also have a display case showcasing items from the various peanut businesses that once called Suffolk home. The newest addition to the museum is this rose garden installed by the Suffolk Master Gardeners. They have many gardens around the city, but this is their first rose garden. There are 5 varieties of David Austin roses planted here, so we hope that people visiting the museum or just taking a walk through the historic district will stop here and smell the roses. We also have a caboose on the property of the museum. This caboose actually started life in the 1960s all the way in Ohio, but was donated to the museum in 2000. The NW here stands for Norfolk and Western, so this would have been a Norfolk and Western caboose. So let's go take a peek inside. A caboose served as home away from home for the train crew. The conductor could complete his paperwork while the train was en route to its destination, and could also observe the train through the use of these bay windows. Now, this caboose had a generator to make electricity for lighting, a stove for heating and for cooking, a restroom, and it even had a bunk so the crew could catch 40 winks during the trip. Well, thanks for joining me on this virtual tour of the Suffolk Seaboard Station Railroad Museum. Please visit our website at suffolktrainstation.com, where you can like us on Facebook.